Hello, everyone. All right. Today, so let's see. Last week, I did the video on getting back to exercise. So today, let's talk about the other one that everyone wants to get started with, usually this time of year or going into the new year. And that is, of course, getting back to healthy eating. So I wanted to cover the top 3 myths that I see the most that seem to really be what hold people back a lot of the times and really make the whole healthy eating thing feel just super heavy and hard and unenjoyable. And then I want to give you my top 3 tips so that you can really get started on that today, even with the holidays. So the tips that I start with too are not like what to eat, it's more how to eat and really how to approach how you eat. So it's totally something that you can start doing even with the holidays. So let's dive into it, and then please do let me know if you put any of these into action, if the myths really bring up anything for you. If you agree, disagree, I would love to hear your perspectives on these. And then, let me know if you put any of these tips into action. So let's just dive right in, since I want these to be nice, short, quick videos so you can just start taking action. So myth number 1 is, let's just address the elephant in the room, that you have to follow a strict diet. You don't. And that's, if you've been in this group for any length of time, you have heard me say this ad nauseum, but you don't have to follow a strict diet. You do not need to be eating chicken, broccoli, and rice all day, every day. You do not need to follow a keto diet. You do not need to follow a paleo diet. You don't need to do intermittent fasting. You do not have to have a set diet plan. And you don't even have to follow a strictly, say, vegan diet or any diet where you're just really obsessing over what you eat. You do not need to do any of that in order to be healthy. And we'll get into that a little bit more. But let me know what comes up for you, especially when I say the word diet. What comes up for you? What emotions? What knee-jerk reactions? So let me know that. Myth number 2 is that, building on this really, healthy eating is all or nothing. So many people, they start their healthy diet and then they cheat, right? They end up, basically, they follow that myth number 1 and have this super restrictive diet, and then they rebel and they have their cheat food. They often tend to gorge on it to the point where they do feel really guilty, maybe even physically sick. I know, chocolate cake or something. I did that once with a bag of Doritos. I wanted Doritos so bad, and I ate pretty much the entire bag. It was when I worked as an EMT, and I had forgotten to bring my lunch, and my partner and I swung by a Walgreens, and we got me a big old bag of Doritos because that's what I was craving. I ate that whole bag over the course of our shift, and I did not feel so good. But anyway, let me know if you got any of those kind of stories. Hello, Holly. Thank you for joining. But so myth number 2 really is that healthy eating is not all or nothing. The big myth that I really want to bust here with this one is that you have not failed to follow a healthy diet if you have a cheat meal. Even if you quote unquote fall completely off the wagon, right? And spend a week just binging on the foods that you had been restricting before, that doesn't necessarily mean that you are no longer healthy, okay? And that's what we'll talk about here in just a minute, is more of this concept of creating balance. But I just want to really bust that myth that healthy eating is all or nothing, that you can only eat healthy food all the time, 100% of the time, and that is the only way you can be healthy. That's simply not true. Myth number 3 is that healthy food does not taste as good or is more expensive. And those I hear getting thrown around really more as an excuse to just not try it. And that can often come to please don't feel I'm judging you, because so many of us have had these very restrictive experiences. And so when suggesting a healthy diet to people, a lot of times there is that knee-jerk reaction of no, I've been there, I've done the chicken, broccoli, and rice thing, and I don't want to do that again. I totally get that. But the myth I really want to bust here is that healthy food does actually taste good if you follow the tips I'm going to tell you. It's all very subjective, right? So like there's plenty of unhealthy foods that I also think taste disgusting. Cheesecake. I cannot stand the stuff. I have never liked it. You can hate me all you want, but I really despise cheesecake. So just like my daughter actually hates chocolate, but she loves anything vanilla, like sugar cookies. So it is totally all subjective. There are healthy foods that don't taste good. There are healthy foods that are damn delicious. And then there are unhealthy foods that are absolutely disgusting, as well as ones that are damn delicious. So all subjective. Don't let that be an excuse to not try healthy eating, which I will tell you in the tips how to actually do that and enjoy it. So the other one too is healthy food is more expensive. It really, again, totally subjective. It depends on your definition of what healthy is. Like, yes, if you want to get nitty gritty, organic food is technically more expensive than other food. However, it all depends on your perspective, right? Like, we could get into like the ethics of factory farming versus regenerative farming. So like, yes, like the cost in the supermarket might be a little bit higher. Like we're talking a few cents to a few dollars, but the cost to the planet is so much less, right? So that's one perspective. However, I understand many of us are on a budget, and realistically, we got to talk money, right? There are ways of doing it. You don't have to eat organic. You do not have to buy only grass-fed meat. Like, yes, those can be healthier, but also if you're looking at going from a diet of predominantly like McDonald's and Doritos and simply just eating more vegetables, like getting some bags of frozen fruits and veggies, it's actually going to be pretty dang cheap. So all subjective here. Healthy food can taste delicious, and it does not have to be more expensive. So just depends on how you want to do it, right? How obsessed you want to get with it. So, and at the end of the day, we want healthy eating to be easy and enjoyable. It's kind of the cornerstone of what we do here. So focus on that, right? If it is too difficult to like, or too expensive to buy all organic, all grass-fed, like that, you don't have to do that, right? So let's get into those tips really quick. And hello, Tony. I just noticed you're watching. Thank you for joining, you guys. So tip number one, and these tips go kind of in order, but of course, you know, take what really resonates with you, right? Tip number one is I want you to really start redefining what healthy needs to be. So if you are feeling very resistant to healthy eating because you've had these negative experiences, right, with like a very restrictive diet, let me reassure you and give you permission to not have to repeat that. It doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't need to be restrictive. It doesn't need to be miserable. It doesn't need to be tasteless. It doesn't need to be forceful. None of those things. It truly should be easy and enjoyable. And the big thing I like to start with when we're talking about really redefining what healthy is, and what I've noticed works very well for everyone, and it gives you the space to really define it the way you want to, is all it needs to be, all healthy eating needs to be, is nourishing to your body, mind, and soul. And so that's kind of where those myths really come in, is this belief that it has to be nourishing for your body. If it's not nourishing for your body, it is not healthy, you're not allowed to eat it, it's bad food, blah, 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 right? It can be nourishing for your mind. It could be nourishing for your soul, right? Those of you who have, all of us, what am I saying, those of you? All of us have those comfort foods that on paper are not the healthiest to eat for our bodies, but those things nourish our souls because they bring that sense of comfort. They bring back those memories. Maybe it's something like with the holidays coming up, maybe it's something that your family loves to cook and enjoy time together while enjoying this food. Like that's actually a healthy food. Like you can argue with me on that if you want. But yes, it's not necessarily healthy for your body, but if it is nourishing your soul and creating this space where your mind can be stimulated and you can deepen connections with those around you, to me, that's a healthy food. And so like, let's redefine what healthy is and make it work for you. Now, by the same token, of course, this is not like an excuse to only eat foods that are comfort foods. Like we do still need to balance, right? And make sure that your body is receiving at least some of the nourishment that it truly needs so that you can enjoy the health that you need to enjoy life on your terms, right? And that kind of leads me into tip number 2. This is how you start finding the foods that really are nourishing to you, but still with that focus of enjoying them, not restricting. I love the rule of like add foods in, right? Instead of trying to restrict the bad foods and remove all those, just add in the ones that are nourishing to your body, because your body's very good at regulating. And so when it starts getting more of those nourishing foods, it'll start kind of downplaying those cravings for the bad foods. Not that there's really good and bad foods. But so tip number 2 is start focusing on how foods make you feel. So you can notice too, again, like, is this a soul food, right? Is this a mind food? Like, does my mind feel more energized? Do I focus better with this food? You know, we hear about like the brain foods and those like the teas and that sort of thing that really boost your mental clarity. Like those might be your brain foods. Maybe you notice what like different carbs really help your brain work better, because that's actually your brain's only source of nourishment comes from carbs. It needs its sugars. So you might notice like when I eat these foods, like maybe for me, when it's sweet potatoes, when I eat sweet potatoes kind of on a regular basis, my brain works really well. Same with getting enough healthy fats in my diet. My brain works great. Look at how your body is processing foods too. Do certain foods really make you feel bloated and heavy? Some foods might even make you feel really grumpy or angry. So just start paying attention to how foods actually affect you. And that's going to clear up all of the confusion over what you should be eating. And it will help you just remove all the guilt of like, oh, I should be eating this, I shouldn't be eating that. It's no, my body has just told me like this does not feel good when I eat it. So I'm going to choose not to eat it as often. Like no guilt, no shame, but it's 100% your choice based on noticing how your body actually responds to food. So I could talk about this one forever. Let me know what you come up with though, just like as a basic activity of simply starting to notice how your body, mind, and soul all respond to food. Start making note of that and share that with me. Let me know what you come up with. And then tip number 3 is getting the basics down before you worry about fancy high-level diet strategies like intermittent fasting and keto, paleo, Whole30, like all of those. Those are what I call high-level strategies, because when done properly, when done for the right person, for the right reasons, these can all be very effective tools. They are not tools that I recommend for someone who does not have these basic skills down. I'll walk you through them really quickly. But if you don't have the basic skills down, you should not be doing these other high-level strategies, because in order to be successful with the higher level strategies, you actually do need to have these. It's 3, 4. I put 4 down. It's just 4 things that you need, 4 skills that you do need to have in place that will allow you to be successful with higher level skills. So if you don't have them down, focus on the basics first. They truly make a world of difference. So number 1 is simply learning to recognize those hunger and fullness cues. It's so critical that instead of allowing someone else to tell you how much you have to eat, or allowing someone else to really dictate how much you need to eat, it's really important that you actually get in touch with your body and allow your body to tell you how much you need to eat. Your body is very skilled at this if we slow down and learn to listen. You will learn when you are hungry. You will learn when you are full. You will learn to recognize what the difference is between boredom eating, emotional eating, and genuine hunger. Like, these are all really good things that you will learn. simply by starting to recognize those hunger and fullness cues. So that's number one. Number two is building on that, learning what portion sizes actually work for you and for your goals. I'm a huge fan of hand portions. That is a resource I can give you guys if you need that. I will actually probably add that here so that you can access that. I love hand portions because they're just this very rough guideline that allows you to be aware of how much you're eating while really tuning into those hunger and fullness cues. Not restrictive at all. But you want to start learning like how much food on your plate is actually appropriate for you, right? That way it just makes it so much easier. It takes all the guesswork out and it takes all the guilt out too. Number three, and the next foundational skill, right, is really learning to eat a variety of foods. Especially a variety of proteins, fats, and carbs. I mean, that's technically what all foods are, right? Those are the macros. So I'm not saying to get fixated on the macros. That is a high level skill on that one. But if you are simply eating a variety of, like going with the hand portions, we do a palm, 1 or 2 palm size protein portions. A cupped handful or 2 of carbs, like starchy carbs. We're talking rice, bread, grains, sweet potatoes, squashes, root veggies, that sort of thing. You can do a fistful or 2 of like green veggies, and you can do like a thumb or 2 of fats. So really nice and simple. But you really do need a variety. Your body truly needs that variety. And luckily, so your body will get the nourishment, your mind will get the nourishment, and your soul will get the nourishment if you're kind of hitting all this. So start eating that variety before you worry about the high level stuff, and really like just going and finding recipes. Any recipe is going to give you that variety. So find what you like to eat. And that is actually tip number 4. Or I guess skill number 4, 3 tips, 4 skills. Hope that makes sense. But skill number 4 is really learning how to consistently have those nourishing body, mind, and soul, healthy foods available to you on a regular basis. Because I see most people really struggling with actually eating on a consistent basis. And so they get these cravings because their body is actually just not receiving enough nourishment on a regular basis. So you really want to find out, and it can depend for you. Like maybe it's working on those basic skills of like planning your meals in advance, prepping your meals in advance, just learning the basic skills of cooking too. Like what are some quick and easy meals that you can cook up at the drop of a hat, right? Or 2, if you are one of those people that like recipes never go right for you, or you genuinely hate cooking, like how can you delegate it to ensure that you are still getting those foods on a regular basis and you have access to regular meals that are nourishing body, mind, and soul? So we have to get those in place, and then we can worry about higher level stuff like intermittent fasting, carb cycling, macros, all that. So don't even worry about that. Let's work on getting these skills in place first. Let me know again how those myths, I hope I busted those myths for you at least a little bit and gave you some permission to really redefine what healthy is for you. And let me know how these tips go. So just as a recap, tip number 1 is redefining what healthy is so that it can include body, mind, and soul nourishing foods. Tip number 2 is actually starting to focus on how food makes you feel, to clarify like what foods do you need to eat? What foods make you feel good? What foods do not? And that too, if a food does not make you feel good physically, but it is one of your soul nourishing foods, then you get to decide how often you engage with that food, right? You get to set that boundary, so it should not be a guilt thing, right? Like you eat it and then you feel guilty. We don't want that. So focus on discovering how foods make you feel to really clarify what you should be eating, and then get those basics down before you worry about more high-level things. So those basics, again, just to recap, learn those hunger and fullness cues, discover what portion sizes are right for you. I love the hand portions. I will share that resource here in just a bit. And then eat that variety of foods. Like really just go out there and eat a variety. Get those proteins, fats, carbs. Just discover what tastes good to you, right? And then figure out what skills you really need to develop so that you can consistently have access to these foods. Whether it's really learning quick and easy meals that you can make, whether it's learning what pantry staples you need to keep on hand, making a food list of those meals that are quick and easy, getting good at meal planning, getting good at meal prepping, getting good at cooking, and maybe delegating too. You know, having your partner cook for you, having them handle the meal planning and prepping, getting a meal delivery service. There's so many options, right? So those are the basics. Let me know how those land for you. Let me know which one you're going to start with, and let me know how it goes for you. So that's it for now. Enjoy and happy holidays, you guys.